Okay, so now we are on to chapter 12, The Way of Love. And unlike the previous two chapters, this one is really all about the practice and how to be in this life. It's a short chapter, but it is like a full manual and almost like a summary of all the instructions that Krishna has given us for the past 11 chapters. So it starts off by Arjuna asking Krishna, who out of all the devotees, who is the most established in yoga? Who is like the the greatest devotee? So the way he asks him this is though like he makes a discernment between the ones who practice the way of love and devotion, the what is called as bhakti yoga, and he differentiates them from the ones who seek Krishna as the eternal formless reality. So that could be people who worship the path of jnana yoga or gyan, right? Um, even meditation. So it's like two different ways of going about the search for truth. Krishna actually says, those who set their hearts on me and worship me with unfailing devotion are and faith are the most established in yoga. So those who set their hearts on me and worship me with unfailing devotion and faith are most established in yoga. And this type of devotion and faith, it just cannot be pretended or faked. The reason he says that this is such like a pure way of um, pure path of yoga, because to really be having unfailing devotion and full of love for Krishna, having him as your only goal, it requires a certain purification of mind. Like it is it's not easy for the new devotee, new person on the spiritual path, because he's filled with doubts and uncertainties and questions. So they may try to have great devotion, but their devotion will always be clouded by doubt and fear, fear of letting go of the known, fear of not following their intellect. However, it doesn't mean that it's not possible, because some people really do start with the path of devotion. And so it is possible either way, but like to really have genuine faith and devotion and be grounded in it and live with self realization as your only goal, it requires a little bit of maturity on the path. And perhaps you've seen that, like, through your own meditation practice, maybe you never thought you would be even open to the path of devotion, but like devotion just starts bubbling up inside of you. It's because it's an aspect of spiritual maturity. As we grow on the spiritual journey, that's what I've experienced. Like before, I would have been totally against devotion and faith and even like worship. But as you mature in meditation and you start to gain a deeper understanding, then you start becoming open to all other paths as well. So I think this is a short chapter, and like it's worth going through every single verse because they're just all jam packed with value and instruction. So in verse 3, Krishna says, as for those who seek the transcendental reality without name, without form, contemplating the unmanifested, beyond the reach of thought or and of feeling, with their senses subdued and their minds serene, and striving for the good of all beings, they too will verily come unto me. So he's saying, so in the first verse, in the second verse, Krishna says, he just describes the bhakti yogi, or called the bhakta, who are just, full of love and devotion, unfailing devotion. And in verse 3, he describes the jnani, the one who follows the path of knowledge, of I would include meditation in this too, you know, who are seeking their true self as the transcendental reality without name, without form. So he says, they too will verily come to me. So they are also very established in yoga. So in verse 5, he says, yet hazardous and slow is the path to the unrevealed. difficult for physical creatures to tread. But they, for whom I am the supreme goal, who do all work renouncing self for me and meditate on me with single hearted devotion, these I will swiftly rescue from the fragments cycle of birth and death, for their consciousness has entered into me. And you coming into these teachings, that's what's happening. Your consciousness is entering your real self, right? Like, or we can say that your real self, which was previously dormant, in the temple of your consciousness, is now awakening and enriching your dream, your experience. So the instruction he gives here is, once again, make him your only goal in life and do all work renouncing selfish interest, desire for only personal gain at all costs. Make work your way of self purification. Even the goal of your work is not the success you desire and this and that, or the worldly object you can gain from it. That's superficial, that's on the surface level. The real goal of all of your work and everything you do during the day is you're doing it selflessly in order to purify the mind and grow in awareness of Krishna, your real self. So this is also a way of devotion, right? So those who do all work, renouncing self for me, with me as their only goal, with single-hearted devotion, these I will swiftly rescue as well. So in verse 8, it is a beautiful instruction. He gives many paths of yoga, right? And it's like, if you can't do this, then do this. If you can't do that, then do that. But do something. Make an effort. Still your mind in me. Still your intellect in me. And without doubt, you will be united with me forever. So, right, this is the path of meditation. If you cannot still your mind in me, learn to do so through the regular practice of meditation. Or so we can say that, like the first statement, still your mind in me, still your intellect in me, and without doubt you'll be united with me forever. We can say actually that is the greatest devotion. That is the greatest love and like seeing Krishna everywhere and in everything, right? So that is a very high state that he described in his first passage of this chapter. And he says, though, if you can't do that, if your mind is full of worldly objects and desires, then discipline your mind through regular practice of meditation. Make the mind one pointed rather than always, as the Buddha says, don't let the mind go where it wants and do what it wants. A mind that goes where it wants and does what it wants is not ever fit to understand. So if you cannot still your mind in me, then learn to do so through the regular practice of meditation. And that's what we're doing, right? We're bringing the mind inward and resting it in our heart, in the heart of all experience, which is being, or our inner self, sense of I am. That's meditation. And then he says, if you lack the will for such self-discipline, right? If you lack the will to do meditation, which by the way, here for us in the school is not an option. You have to conquer yourself in that way. You must try to do it anyway. If you lack the will for such self-discipline, engage yourself in my work, for selfless service can lead you at last to complete fulfillment. So he says, if you can't meditate, then engage yourself in selfless action, selfless service. That is also going to purify the mind and help you gain the will for meditation. Here, do both. That's my recommendation. Don't just choose one or the other or say, I'm too weak for that. Strive towards what you feel you are too weak for. Don't just take that at face value, like, oh, I can't do that. Whatever you feel like you can't do, question, why can't you do it? It's just that we're like too unwilling to do it. We like, you have the power within you. That's what you have to start discovering about this. Everything that is stated in this book, you have the power to do. Your conditioning may go against it and it feels like you are making an effort to live in this way, but you have the power to do it. And the more you call upon that power, the more it will be bestowed upon you. It is like that quote that I read a long time ago. It said, "Power comes to those who make sufficient use of the power that is already at their disposal." This quote has always stuck with me, and I found it true in all things personal and spiritual. We want a lot of power. For example, in meditation, we want greater awareness. In daily life, we want more resources, money, health, love, but we don't make sufficient use, proper use of the power that is already in our possession. We use it for only selfish interests, or we don't use it at all. You know, we abuse it, or we are ungrateful for what we already have. So it's like power comes to those who make sufficient use of the power that is already in their possession. So, and if we're talking about meditation, even if like you sit for 30 minutes and you are totally just lost in thought, but at least right now, what's in your power is that you sit, right? If you use that power to just do what you can do, little by little, you will gain more power. So little by little, you maybe have a few moments of stillness. And then because you're making sufficient use of that power, then those moments of stillness will grow. It's like that with everything. Don't just expect it all to come to you. Prove your worthiness by taking care of the small amount of the pre existing power you already have. And when you do, more is bestowed upon you. And a way of, one way of practice Krishna is saying is that like the will that you have, the power that you have to act in this world, if all you're using all that power only to benefit your own self and to just for personal gain, then that power is being wasted. You know, you should not be the only goal of your work. That's why he keeps saying, use your work, use your power, your will to work without attachment to your results. In that way, you come into alignment with nature. In nature, everything works for everything else, not for itself. In working for everything else, it also accomplishes its own ends, but not because it has any selfish motive to do so. So that's the one thing that's very different about human beings. Is like we now, through the path of yoga, we have to also come into alignment with natural law. We have to overcome our ego, our selfish motive, and start to act selflessly, thereby coming naturally into alignment, achieving the ends of totality of manifestation and our own. That's the really interesting part about it. Okay, so if you lack the will for such self discipline, engage yourself in my work, right? For selfless service can lead you at last to complete fulfillment. We think that fulfillment actually exists in selfish motive. How will I get what I want if I don't constantly crave it and work towards it? First of all, you can work towards anything you want, but you have to be free from attachment to result and don't only do the work that you do for only your own benefit. Um, in selfless service, you find a fulfillment that you cannot ever find through selfish work. That is the paradox. And that's something we must see. No matter how much you have achieved, there's an unquenchable thirst, unquenchable desire for fulfillment. Achieving your selfish ends does not actually quench your thirst for satisfaction. So that's the funny part about it. And we have to experience that a little bit in our lifetime to really see the truth of these words. And so he says, if you are unable to do even that, if you're unable to even work selflessly, then surrender yourself to me, disciplining yourself and renouncing the results of all your actions. So this is like, if you can't do anything, then surrender totally. Be completely open to what may come your way and what may leave you. This is a great form of practice as well. So in next verse 12, Krishna says, better indeed is knowledge than mechanical practice. Okay. Better than knowledge is meditation, but better still is surrender of attachment to results, because there follows immediate peace. So here actually he says, surrender is even greater than meditation. Here in the school, as you know, we practice both side by side together. For me, I really feel that meditation and surrender go together. It's hard to practice one without the other, and it's hard to progress in one without the other. That's why here in the school, you'll learn practicing both elements together. So he says, better indeed is knowledge than mechanical practice. What is mechanical practice? Those who are just being like spiritual or religious for like, you know, just maybe because they were born into it, or like those who do these things, or like maybe do worship and spiritual religious practices, but they lack any real knowledge, or even the desire to gain any real knowledge and understanding of why they're doing what they're doing and what they are pursuing. So better than mechanical practice is knowledge, right? At least learn about God, reality, truth, even intellectual understanding. You know, better than knowledge is meditation. So how many times in the course and in the talks that we do, we talk about like, hey, stop trying to grasp it with your mind. So even the path of knowledge is limited when it comes to meditation. Meditation, which is the language, like silence. Why did Ramana Maharshi also emphasize silence so deeply? Silence is the language of your true self. It is the language of creation. Um, so silence is even superior to intellect, to understanding, to any conceptual knowledge. From there comes even greater spiritual insight, clarity. And but better still, even than meditation, is surrender of attachment to results, because there follows immediate peace. I don't know how it is in your journey, but I can tell you that in my journey, I don't think I would be able to actually truly even understand surrender or practice it without meditation. I think meditation is what allowed my mind to become more and more subtle and pure, so that I could actually grasp surrender and be interested in it enough to practice it and embody it. But your path will be different to me. So one thing I can say though is, like, rather than going through all of these things and picking, oh, I like this, I don't like this, I want to do this, I don't want to do this, I encourage you to embody all of these things to a certain degree. You can lean more towards one practice than the other. I do too. I lean more towards meditation and also surrender. However, try to embody all of these instructions that Krishna is giving. That one is most established in yoga. So surrender, he says, surrender of attachment to results doesn't bring peace and fulfillment later down the road. It brings it now, here and now. So in verse 13, he says, that one I love who is incapable of ill will. So more instruction for us. He loves those who are incapable of ill will, who is friendly and compassionate. So he's talking about how to be in this world, living beyond the reach of I and mine, and of pleasure and pain. So, right, beyond the reach of I and mine, transcending just the craving for personal gain, attachment and aversion. I and mine is ego, and of pleasure and pain. So, being alike in both success and failure, pleasure, pain, in the dualities of experience. That is the way we arise, ascend in spiritual wisdom. So living beyond the reach of I and mine, of pleasure and pain, patient, contented, self-controlled, firm in faith, with all their heart and all their mind given to me. With such as these, I am in love. Meaning, these are the greatest devotees. These are the ones who are closest to truth. These are the ones in whose consciousness Krishna can come alive and enrich their entire experience and give them spiritual knowledge. So this is a jam-packed passage, verse 13. It shows you how to be in the world. Incapable of ill will, friendly and compassionate, living beyond the reach of I and mine, and of pleasure and pain. Patient, contented, self-controlled, firm in faith, with all their heart and mind given to me. Meditation, right? Awareness of self. And this is fulfilling immediately, here and now. In living in this way, there cannot be suffering in the now. So he continues instruction in verse 15. Not agitating the world or by it agitated. They stand above the sway of elation, competition, and fear. That one is my beloved. So not agitating the world, not causing it harm, and not agitated by it. Not, you know, being so deeply impressed in the mind with the pain that comes forth, right? This is the disentangling of your karma. Even the pain that is inflicted on you, let your light consume it and destroy it. Have no ill will for the world or anyone in it or anything in it anymore. Above the sway of elation, competition, and fear. So these are qualities that are very established in ego, I, me, mine. To rise above it, we have to go beyond the notions of I, me, mine. Constant attachment to what I want to gain, aversion to what I, want to avoid and not lose. So verse 16, they are detached, pure, efficient, impartial, never anxious, selfless in all their undertakings. They are my devotees, very dear to me. So just another verse for how to be in this world. Detached, pure, efficient, impartial, never anxious, selfless in all your undertakings. Observe yourself going through life and see what is not in alignment with the way Krishna is describing how you should be in this verse. And you will find that all those qualities which are out of alignment with this, they only bring you pain and create suffering in your life and block spiritual knowledge. So Krishna is not just saying, hey, be this way because that's what I say is true. You have to see for yourself that this is the only way to be if you don't want to suffer in your personal life and if you want to achieve or attain spiritual truth. And then it won't be like mechanical or forced. It will become your natural expression because it will be the only way to be, that it makes sense to be. It will become more practical. Right now, the mind thinks, oh, how's it impractical to not seek revenge or to not, to just forgive? How is it practical to just forgive and not cause others harm and stuff? So what it considers practical right now is very, miscued. So this new way of being becomes practical when we start to observe the consequences of our actions, of our motives. Verse 17, that one is dear to me who runs not after the pleasant or away from the painful, grieves not, lusts not, but lets things come and go as they happen. This is the state of spiritual surrender. And one who lives in surrender is very dear to Krishna. Krishna will give everything to one who lives in surrender. Total acceptance. Don't just run after pleasure. Don't run away from pain. Let things come and go. Let your destiny unravel. You are only its witness. That devotee who looks upon friend and foe with equal regard, who is not buoyed up by praise nor cast down by blame, alike in heat and cold, pleasure and pain, free from selfish attachments, the same in honor and dishonor, quiet, ever full, in harmony everywhere, firm in faith, such a one is dear to me. Incredible. It's such a blessing to have this teaching in your life, to have this instruction in such a pure form. I hope you feel that way also. So see everyone with the same eye. Krishna dwells in everyone, friend and foe. Don't be buoyed up by praise and don't be cast down by blame. Be alike in heat and cold, pleasure, pain, success, failure, highs and lows, evenness of mind, non attachment, not deriving your sense of self and worth and happiness from the swaying fortunes of phenomenal experience from personal life. To go beyond, you must be beyond. Quiet, ever full, in harmony everywhere, firm in faith. That's how you must be. Strive towards it. You don't have to be perfect, but strive towards it. In using the power you already have, you will be bestowed more and more power. And then so in these two last passages, that's the code of conduct you must keep in your life. You'll notice that when you follow these spiritual laws, you also naturally follow all personal laws. What brings you spiritual fulfillment also brings you personal satisfaction, but it's not the other way. If you only seek personal satisfaction, it will not bring you, it will actually fail to even bring you personal satisfaction because it is always so fleeting, but it will certainly never bring you spiritual fulfillment. But when you seek spiritual fulfillment, it brings you spiritual fulfillment and personal satisfaction. It's something to notice. And so, our last verse here, those who meditate upon this immortal Dharma, as I have declared it, full of faith and seeking me as life's supreme goal, are truly my devotees, and my love for them is great. So he's saying, those who meditate upon these teachings, and who practice it, and who live by it, and who strive towards, you know, embodying what I have declared as like the way to be, full of faith, and for whom I am the only goal, they are truly my devotees, and my love for them is great. So Krishna is speaking as your inner self, your real guru. Any guru or teacher you have on the outside is only also him taking form and teaching you. But he's asking you to recognize himself within yourself. So this is probably my favorite chapter of the Gita. Feel so blessed, you know. Makes you feel sometimes it's like, I don't know what I did to deserve this in my lifetime. But one can only feel immense gratitude and, an overflowing joy and devotion. So let's go over today's points. Chapter 12, The Way of Love. Those who make Krishna the highest goal in life and worship him with unfailing devotion, seeking him everywhere and in everything, are his most dearest devotees and most established in yoga, ones who he will swiftly rescue from the cycle of birth and death. So do all your work selflessly with Krishna as your only goal. You make your personal life only a vehicle through which you transcend the limited notions and beliefs of me and mine, and Purify your mind to know truth. Combine meditation, selfless action, loving devotion, and surrender. Do all of these, and you cannot fail. That one of my main things and goals with this school is to just bring total clarity in your spiritual practice, you know, and I feel like if we try our best to combine all of these things, we cannot fail. We grow in spiritual knowledge. So live for truth alone, not personal gain. Another like this theme just keeps coming on every chapter because the person has to be reminded of this every single time, again and again and again, because the person is foolish, selfish, and convinced, wrongly convinced that material satisfaction, material gain is the way to fulfillment. But this is a very misled desire. Root out all dysfunctional, selfish tendencies in the mind. You do that through self observation, through your life. Part ways with what is limited, centered around like egocentric, and what you observe to create suffering and pain in your life and in the life of others. Be alike in pleasure and pain, success, failure, right? All the dualities of life. And use the world to go beyond the world. See the world as just like a spiritual arena through which you journey and grow in union with Krishna, realization of your true self. Transcend I, me, mind. For all dysfunction leads out of these ideas or this one idea, which is I. Meditate upon, well, before we get to that point, it is also beautiful to see that, like, this was also the main teaching of Ramana Maharshi, right? He says, I is ego. And his main inquiry, who am I, is to uproot this primary illusion out of the mind. So, spiritual masters from such different times, you know, and even masters of other places of the world and different times, like all share the same Dharma because the Dharma is only one. No matter where you live and what culture you are raised in, Dharma is only one. Source is only one. Whether it is Krishna who says it, or Jesus, or Buddha, or Ramana, or you. So meditate upon and live according to the Dharma that is stated by Krishna. That is our life manual, right? On how to navigate this life without suffering, and also our path to self realization. So, two things, right? It's our manual for how to live, and it is our path that we must follow to self realization. Constantly keep the teaching around you, constantly be surrounded by those who practice it, because you will need to be reminded again and again and again. You will need to read this again and again and again. The mind is very immature and lost in its ways. So it takes a certain reprogramming, you know. Through that process, be patient, contented, self controlled, and full of joy. Or even practicing these teachings is a joy. So that's all for this lesson. Hope you enjoyed it. My favorite one for sure. Let me know how you related with it in the comments below.